in meetings there, I'm in meetings with like my gray-haired bosses, and they're like, more than trying to subdue me, they're like, speak up. Like, these are like old Japanese dudes being like, what's your opinion? Like, don't just come here and show me this, what's your opinion? And I'm like, all right.
Welcome to the Melanated Files. In this series, we highlight and share the stories of black people from across the globe. Remember to subscribe to this channel for weekly videos and also follow us on social media for regular updates. Let's get into the interview.
My name's Annabell. I'm from Kingston, Jamaica. Why Japan? I studied architecture in Jamaica, undergraduate. After I graduated undergrad, I knew that I wanted to go abroad, because the only architecture school in the Caribbean, for English-speaking Caribbean anyway, is in Jamaica. So it's either go to the same school for masters or go abroad. At the time, I admired many architects internationally, but I liked what Japanese architects were doing, especially because there's a lot of natural disasters here. So you got to see, just studying on undergrad level, lots of innovative disaster relief architecture coming out of Japan. And as a young architect, you don't really get to do much for a while. Like, buildings take years to build, but disaster relief is instant, and you can get your hands on some experience while you're still young. So I thought if I came to Japan, I'd be able to get more hands-on at a younger age, making buildings and not just doing drawings. So I first came to Japan on the JET program as an English teacher. Of course, my goal wasn't to be an English teacher, but I didn't have money for a master's right away. You need a master's before you can get a license as an architect. So a master's is not an option. You have to, I mean, it's not optional, you have to do one. So I figured JET would be a good way to maybe learn Japanese, acclimatize, because I figure I couldn't just jump into Japan and start working with Japanese architects. I'd have to understand something about them. I'd have to be able to talk to them in their language. So JET was a scholarship, a language study program, and a cultural experience all in one for me. So I saved a lot of money on JET, put myself through the masters from the money I earned on JET. And I learned enough Japanese to do the masters like half in English, half in Japanese. And then, yeah, now I'm working in a firm, and I'm able to, work in a full team of Japanese people. I rarely speak English anymore, which is why I probably stutter so much. I'm finally an architect after JET, then school, all the part-time jobs, finally just working as an architect. There's an international team in my firm, but they put me in the Japanese team because I did the interview for the job in Japanese, and they thought I could handle it. I was honored by that, but the first few months were a struggle. Like, I knew Japanese well enough, but doing work and specialized work like architecture, and then it's a multidisciplinary firm. Most architecture firms only do architecture, and then they collaborate with outside engineering firms, and then MEP engineering firms, which is mechanical, electrical, and plumbing engineers. But the firm I work at has 3-in-1, planners, architects, and engineers. So we're just on different floors. So when we have meetings with people from the different departments, I mean, in school I learned the architectural Japanese jargon. But then having to be in a meeting where the structural engineer is talking, the MEP engineer is talking, the landscape architect is talking, and they're all talking at the same time. I'm like,
In Japanese.
In Japanese. I'm like, well, yeah. But after a few months, I've even got the hang of that. But yeah, it's a learning curve always. It's been 5.5 years. 2 years on JET, then 2 years in the masters. Then after I graduated, I was looking for jobs here, and I was working in my professor's firm before I got this job. So now I've been in this firm 6 months, so 5.5 years. JET I did in Ishikawa Prefecture. Ishikawa is rural Japan, gorgeous. A landscape I was sort of more comfortable with coming from Jamaica, which has so many mountains. In Ishikawa, the landscape always has a mountain in the backdrop. I really like that. It was quiet. You got to, the people were more, I feel like this is the same in any country where rural people are more warm and engaging. So people in Ishikawa were engaging. I got to learn. I feel like I wouldn't have learned Japanese to the level I have if I didn't start in rural Japan. So I would say if you're coming to Japan and you want to learn Japanese, don't start in Tokyo. Because not that anyone's English is perfect, but they know enough English here in Tokyo for you to like get around. If you want to learn at the level where you can work and live together with Japanese people, then rural is the place to start. So that's Ishikawa. Then Tokyo. Tokyo is like, this is a lot of people, like a lot of people. If you ever go to like Shinjuku Station or Shibuya Station or Ikebukuro Station, yeah, people, like just human overload. And I only realized how crowded Tokyo is and how dense it is, like if I take a trip outside of Tokyo and I realize like I can breathe, you know? So that's the big difference. Like you really feel the urbanness of Tokyo, and in a place like Ishikawa, you get culture and quiet and real interaction with people. I think it's as effective as it could be, you know, Tokyo's urban planning. It's a bit cramped for my taste, and I feel like every locality has its own. There's a word in architecture we use called genius loci. It means like just a combination of everything about a place. So it's history, its physical landscape, the culture of its people, the available materials there for building, and the available technology there to develop those buildings. So Tokyo's collectiveness would probably yield very few variations on what it is, because so many people trying to live in this one place, you're gonna get like these really small footprint buildings and just like a bunch of people living on top of each other, kind of very small rooms by international standards. But it works because the culture is one of just kind of respecting people's space, sort of being quiet, and yeah, and the physical landscape of Tokyo with a different culture I don't think would work. What I like about architecture in Tokyo and in Japan, because of all the physical constraints, you have to be really smart about how to fit everything necessary for this building program into this small footprint and make it work well. For my personal taste, it's still too small, but I think it's still like the best management of small space I've seen internationally. So my immediate goal is to get the architectural license that I need to actually call myself an architect. I use the term architect loosely now. It's just like a lawyer. Lawyers take the bar. Architects have to take an exam, and then you're a licensed architect. Right now, my title is very vague. In some countries they call it architecture part 2. Some countries they call it graduate architect. Some call it architectural designer. So yeah, the goal is to get the license, be an architect. The projects I'm working on now, I'd like to see them built. I'm still just on the design phase. So I'd like to get on site, see them come to life. I'm on 3 projects right now, so if I get those 3 projects built, then maybe I can think about moving on to other countries and things I'm more passionate about. I've always wanted to go to Africa, specifically Ghana, or if we're talking East Africa, Uganda and Kenya. And Rwanda is on everyone's radar recently, very interested in Rwanda. And of course, eventually I need to go back to Jamaica and share what I've learned and hopefully improve Kingston city planning and just the use of public space there. That's more an urban planners region, but I've always thought that Kingston doesn't have enough public gathering space for people. But yeah, goals would be finish my buildings here in Japan, explore the countries in East Africa I'm interested in, and Ghana and West Africa, return to Jamaica and contribute to the built environment there. Getting into a master's program in Japan, it was really like, you just reminded me how annoying it was. It was really like a long process. The website wasn't laid out very well, I think. You really have to, like, if you want it, you're gonna have to like go through a lot of annoying nights of just like going through this website trying to find information you want. I don't know if the websites are better now, but I found my university because my friend did her master's in Beijing. Jamaican friend, we did architecture undergrad together in Jamaica. She went to Beijing to do her master's. Her professor in Beijing was a Japanese professor who also taught in Japan. So she said, maybe you could go to his school in Japan or something. So I met with him, but then he said, my school's no good, go to this school called Keio. Apparently Keio is a huge deal, which I have now learned since being there, but I didn't know it was any big deal school. And then he introduced me to his professor friend at Keio, who became like my mentor, who I really respect after that would have been the next 2.5 years. The entrance exams, they'll intimidate you, but they're actually really easy. Because in Western schools, I think we all learn critical thinking from a very young age. Japanese schools don't teach critical thinking, it's more rote learning, which I also witnessed as an English teacher in a Japanese public high school. So the entrance exam is going to be something about critical thinking or whatever, and we do those kind of essays in high school already. I'm surprised it was like a master's entrance exam, like not even a bachelor's entrance exam. So like even the thought that on the bachelor's level would be the first time they're doing critical thinking in Japan, that was kind of crazy. But yeah, just know that the process will be daunting and long and intimidating, and then you'll probably end up getting in pretty easily. So don't be discouraged. Being able to speak Japanese is a big help. I did the JLPT exam when I was in Ishikawa and I got N3. And then having that N3 certificate, I think helped me get into my program, because my program specifically didn't have enough foreign professors to teach all of the required credits in English, and that's why I ended up studying in Japanese. When I compared Japan's degrees to Jamaica's, they were kind of the same. So I was like, okay, I'll just do it here. American schools are way more expensive, way more expensive. European schools, a lot of them are free. Another friend who did architecture with me in Jamaica, he did his master's in Germany for free. Should have just done that. But yeah, my friends who did their masters in Beijing, theirs was kind of expensive. I think Japan is, as far as higher education goes in Japan, it costs money, of course, but I think it's way cheaper than America. Oh, securing the job too. Again, I'm sorry it ended up being about who I know, but the same professor who mentored me at Keio, he used to work in the firm that I work in now. So it's not so much that like, because I knew him, I got in per se, like it was hard to get in, but it was about me choosing that place because he knew what the work culture was like there, and he said like, he knows the climate of like work in Japan, and like I'm a foreigner and he knows I'm opinionated, like he and I butt heads all the time. So he's like, if you want a place where you can express your opinions, then this firm is a place for you, because they don't like yes men there, yes women, you know, so it's a place where I could be as obnoxious as I wanted to. And yeah, like they've lived up to what they say on their website, what my professor told me after working there too. Like in meetings there, I'm in meetings with like my gray-haired bosses, and they're like, more than trying to subdue me, they're like, speak up. Like these are like old Japanese dudes being like, what's your opinion? Like, don't just come here and show me this. What's your opinion? And I'm like, all right, you want it? You want my opinion? Because I'll give it, you know. And they're happier when you give it. So that's a dime a dozen though, like finding work here where you can, to some extent, be yourself. Because even if you're like a quiet foreigner, I think we're all kind of used to an environment where we can express ourselves more. And I think you can really get depressed, and I'm actually being serious now. Like, your mental health can suffer if you have to like conform to the Japanese style of working. Because even in my relatively liberal firm right now, I am still struggling with how much restriction there is on what I can and can't do socially. Not in the work aspect, because in the work aspect they want you, you know, we're designers, they want your opinion. But socially, it's taxing to like have to be, and then you spend a lot of time there. I leave work at midnight almost every night, last train. So you're spending all your waking hours with people who you can't be yourself around. Consider if you want to do that. And if you want to work here, look for firms that openly speak out about being progressive, like instead of traditional, where they want people to be outspoken. Search for that first when looking for work here. What I like the most about Japan, this is a selfish reason, but I like my personal independence here. Like, I'm the youngest child in my family, and everyone's just like on me all the time. So when I'm here, I'm just an adult by myself. I like the independence. I like being able to jump on a train and get very close to the next place I'm going to. Like, if I get off the train, all I have to do is walk. In Jamaica, I need a car. I'm hardly in Jamaica, so no one's gonna give me a car when I go back to visit. So my sister has to drive me somewhere, I have to wait around, or I have to wait on the bus, and it's just very, here, the independence, which I think, I said it's a selfish reason, but I think anybody can come here and feel independent because the train system is very sophisticated. It's safe, you can walk by yourself as a female any time of night, as I often do. Independence, good transportation, safety, the usual three. What do I like the least about Japan? Social interaction. I like to just speak frankly, and I like to call things as they are. And it's unnaturally difficult to do that here. Like, the threshold for challenging conversation is just like very low here. Like, people get very shocked, taken aback by, which by like Western standards are just like not even a big deal for a conversation. So as long as I've been here, I still struggle with like what conversation is like acceptable or not. My office is actually very forward thinking. The setup is pretty much a Japanese office, but they're very much aware of international standards, and they try to meet international standards. So at least on paper, you're told like go home at 6, even though I never go home at 6, more like midnight. But but you know, like on paper, it's like go home at 6, mental health, like take care of yourself. They tell you all that stuff on paper. So they're forward thinking. But in my section, like there's still a lot of like traditionally minded people, so there's like the peer pressure of just sitting around with them. And if they're your team members too, like you're working on the same building together, it's kind of hard to say like I'm going home at 6 and then this guy's going to stay till midnight. It's like you kind of have to be around and share the work. So that's challenging, like meeting other people's schedule, meeting them halfway. But as a Black person in the setting, like I don't feel any sort of difference in behavior towards me because I am Black or foreign, because I'm able to do the work and I can read the emails, I can reply to the emails, I can join in the chit chat in Japanese. The only thing that's kind of weird is like when, again, like if I say something that like oh, okay, so that's not cool for this type of conversation. And then everyone's face just like drops and I'm like, never mind, you know, that just awkwardness with like trying to hang out like on lunch break or whatever. But yeah, I don't feel any sort of weirdness because of my difference per se. I go through these phases, like I really like soba noodles, well then recently I'm into udon noodles. I like the soups and I go through these like ramen, soba, udon. I just go through different phases. I think I'm in an udon phase right now. Best life advice I've received. Someone said to me once, they're just people. I get a lot of social anxiety. Like it's like only after moving to Japan. Like before Japan, I was a very confident, like normal person. But because of, again, all those like conversation fails where like I try to contribute something and then just the reaction is so like jarring, you know. I've developed a lot of like anxiety about what I can and can't say and fitting in and stuff like that, which is interesting because Japan is very much a society about fitting in and not standing out, so I've taken that on. But yeah, the best life advice I got from someone is like they're just people, so just relax. Yeah, my experience as a black person overall is sometimes you catch like an old man on the train giving you like the stinkiest eye and I'm like, what did I do to this person? And I'm like, maybe it's some movie he watched with some like loud stereotypical black woman and he's projecting that onto me. And by the way, nothing is even wrong with that loud stereotypical black woman. There's nothing wrong with that kind of person. But yeah, just like this seesaw of sometimes people are just looking at you as if like what is happening to my country? You know, like why is this woman here? To like just people staring at you with like smiling like ridiculously at you. And you're like, thanks. You know? It's just like these ups and downs. Just a series of reactions to me, and I just have to witness all of it. It's just an experience of different stares. And on the social level, like I made really good real friends in Ishikawa who were Japanese. I haven't really made any Japanese friends in Tokyo. So I think that's kind of like a reflection of rural urban existence too in any country. Like I think people form closer bonds in rural areas, and then in like fast-paced cities like Tokyo or New York or wherever, it's like everyone is just like obviously here to like get ahead in life, make money, you know, and then everyone's tired. Like sometimes I want to take it personally when people like say like, oh, let's hang out, and then they never like actually call you to hang out. They're just tired. Because sometimes when people like finally do, I'm like, I've been at work till midnight every day this week. I kind of just want to stay home this weekend, you know? And I'm from experiencing that Tokyo work lifestyle myself, I can empathize and be like, yes, they're antisocial, but they're probably just stressed and tired. The general attitude towards black people in Japan is like we are lit 24/7. Like, I'm kind of quiet. Like, I think I can count it down to like once every 2 weeks now. Someone in my office will ask me like, what's wrong? And I'm literally just working at my computer. Like, I think I have like a resting bitch face, maybe. But I'm just working at my computer, like nothing's wrong with me. But I think there's this stereotype that foreigners, maybe not even black people, but foreigners, one, are always like, ugh, all the time. And then on top of that, like black people can dance and run fast and they have rhythm, so they must be fun. And then when they meet me and I'm just like, I think that's like the most disappointing thing for them. So, yeah, I think it's just this perception that we're just lit all the time, and we are not. We're varied. Some of us are, some of us aren't. Oh God, there's so many funny things that have happened to me here. Like when I was on JET, I taught at a high school, and one day, like my hair changed, as any black person will know, like your hair has different moods depending on the humidity or whatever. So my hair looked different from usual one day, maybe because I washed it, I don't know. And all the girls in like my second grade in high school, so you know they have 3 years here in Japan, and the second years in high school, they just like dragged me into the bathroom, like pulled out my scrunchie and were like petting me. And they're like, wow, it's so soft. I didn't expect it to be so soft. And they're like, oh, she looks like a model. And they're like fluffing my hair. And I was like, this is, like if this was ever caught on film, this is the most insane moment. Like a rural Japanese high school in the bathroom with all these girls in uniform, just like fluffing out a black woman's hair. It was weird. Weird. Like an old man on the train, like popping a mint in his mouth and being like, you want one? Like trying to flirt with me. I was like, what the hell? Japanese women just like groping you like, oh, your body's so curvy. Like, all right, back up, get off me. Yeah, all kinds of experiences. I can't even, we'd be here all day. Anytime I go away, half my suitcase is hair products when I come back, pretty much. And then when I run out, I just get like raw things, like just olive oil from the supermarket or shea butter, which is really expensive here, but you can get it online. Yeah, bring your own stuff, lots of it. Makeup also bought in, you know, if you go to South Asia, like in the airports in like Thailand and stuff, the MAC stores there actually have darker foundation and stuff. I didn't buy any, but like I saw it, I was like, oh, okay. So maybe if you don't have the time or can't travel as far, but like maybe you want to go South Asia or whatever where people have darker skin tones, you might find darker makeup there. The main difference between Jamaica and Japan is definitely the mindset, and it's like a lesson in how much your mind creates your whole world, like limitations people put on themselves. And Jamaicans are guilty of it too, but like I feel like the Japanese mind just has so many rules like holding it down, so much potential for what people could do if they weren't like limiting themselves by just like, I don't want to say traditions because I don't want to insult anyone's traditions, but just like social norms that are, everyone does them because it's a part of the society's identity, but that doesn't mean that it's the best or most effective thing for the society as well as for the individuals. So the Japanese mindset has a lot of rules, the Jamaican mindset maybe not enough rules, but what I think that makes Jamaica great too, like, and full of potential, just that people are so free in their thinking, and you only get to appreciate that when you come to a place like this and just see the contrast. If I could change one thing in the world, I would change how human beings deal with the knowledge they have. I feel like I've never been one to subscribe to the whole humans being like a master race over animals or anything, but it is undeniable, like whatever we do has the most effect on other animals and on the planet as a whole. And there's just patterns that just recur with how we think and how we use the information we have that have proven damaging every time. And I feel like, yeah, people who don't like history or find it boring or whatever, but I feel like humans record history so that you don't have to do the same things over again. Like imagine if no one recorded math and every generation had to figure out numbers again and like make up 1 to 10. Make up algebra all over again every time, you know, like it's an extreme, that's the extent of the logic, it's an extreme example, but the essence of history is like how in your own life, if a certain type of person has wronged you, you don't mess with those kind of people anymore because that's the way they behave, kind of thing. Like you have personal wisdom that's on the span of your lifetime, and then history, which is just by the technology of pen to paper and writing and sharing experiences with each other over generations, we can learn from experience, And I just wish we were more analytical as individuals, more analytical with our own behavior patterns and our own lives to lead better lives. And on a larger scale in terms of time, more analytical with our histories so that we don't repeat them, so that we don't perpetuate harmful behaviors like something as simple as negative stereotypes towards Black people, and how, whether you want to say we're complaining or not, or if we really wanted to, we could lift ourselves up or whatever, but people's perceptions of us matter. And because our perceptions affect each other, the way we think affects each other, and that's why we need to be better with how we manage information we gain. Dead or alive? Can I give two? Okay. Dead, Marcus Garvey. As a Jamaican, I don't care how cliche that is. When I was a teenager, Marcus Garvey was my hero, because when you're a teenager in Jamaica, you're going to learn about the slave trade in history. And I feel like we all go through a similar course of emotions. Like, one is embarrassment, like the fact that was done to us, and like how could we allow that like to be done to us, like didn't we have any agency? Couldn't we have like fought back? But you get older and you realize it's way more complex than that. But so embarrassment is one. And then the next thing is that every kind of history you learn about us is like we're always a loser, But Marcus Garvey was one of the first Black figures I came into contact with personally who looked like a winner to me. No one is perfect, and yes, he had like some scandals at the end of his life and whatever, but do you think all the heroes of all the other cultures on this earth were squeaky clean? Or I don't know, like that's not the goal of it. But for me, what it meant was that, we're not powerless, and if we put our minds to things, we can do them. Like this little man from Jamaica went to America and got ships and a newspaper going and all kind. I'm like, what? So yeah, I'd love to talk to him if I could. That's a deceased person. And a live person, I feel like this will always change, but right now, this year, a Japanese architect by the name of Arata Isozaki won this thing called the Pritzker Prize. It's like the Nobel Prize for architects. And I'll admit, like I didn't know his work very much until he won the prize. I knew a lot of other Japanese architects' work a lot more. But when I started like reading his work, he just seemed like a really interesting person to talk to. Like he's this young Japanese guy, and like even though like the Japanese mindset is like kind of conservative and like not very much like about sharing your opinions and stuff, but he's like even decades ago super opinionated, and like just his way of thinking was extremely profound. And I'm like, I wonder what his day-to-day is like as like a young super opinionated Japanese guy back in the 50s or 60s. He's not that old, 70s. And just like I just want to know, like, is it rough for you? Do you have friends? Like, how do you get along in this society with all that going on up here? I'm proud of a project I did in Nepal while I was a master's student. I built a small building sort of thing in Nepal after the Nepalese earthquake, and it was an amazing experience, like working with Nepalese people, and after being in Japan for 3.5 years, just coming upon another like yet fresh and totally different culture of people, working with the Japanese people from my university, the Nepalese people who are our clients and our partners in the project, and then like building something I designed. Like as an architect, like the first time you actually make something that you designed on paper and see it real, like you have to understand that's like really amazing. So It wasn't perfect. We had to even like take it apart and build it again. Like my calculations weren't right the first time and all of that, but that's fine too. Like I'm just glad I got to do it and have yet another amazing cultural experience on top of like making my first real built thing. The biggest lesson I've learned in life, again, I think has to deal with like the human mindset and how powerful it is, like whether we want to accept the responsibility of it or not, because it can make or break like the world around us, like the physical environment around us, as much as it can affect other people's lives in a positive or negative way. Like just by your mindset and how you move through the world and treat other people and treat the environment, like you can create paradise or you can create hell on earth. Like, so I just try to watch my mindset, try to be empathetic, even if I don't understand something, just respect that it is, and I don't have to have a say in the way it is. Like that's that thing and I'm me. Yeah, just mindset, it's everything. Earliest memory, I think I remember being in the back of my mother's car and watching the stoplight and trying to figure out why the cars were going and stopping. And then like I looked at the stoplight and I think I kind of figured out, oh, they're obeying that light. I don't remember how old I was. Don't just believe in something or think something is true because you want to believe it. Listen to people, explore ideas, search for the truth yourself. Yeah, what Japan does really well is restraint, knowing when to hold back and when to go full force. Favorite place in Japan? What? It's right there. It's Kichijoji in Okashida Park. It's gorgeous. I think you should visit. Yeah. Dating like in Japan. I don't like being someone's token. So I kind of like was done with it after a while, but my boyfriend's Japanese American, born and raised in America, so that's different. But I met him here too, so it's interesting, like you have Japanese born and raised overseas, or like Japanese born and raised overseas who have come back here, and all the different mentalities in between. I'm not saying they're all going to treat you like a token or like, oh hey, I got to sleep with a black girl or something. But yeah, I just grew tired of navigating who's real and who's not. So personally, yeah. Common misconception about Japan is that they're like this deep, mystical, ancient Eastern civilization that like, within the first few months of me being here, a lady that I taught English with, she was in her late 50s. She was actually an anthropologist. I thought she was an English teacher, and she was actually an anthropologist. And she told me, she totally caught me off guard. She's like, don't you think Japanese culture is very superficial? And I was like, is this a trick question? Like, I'm not gonna answer that. And she's like, no, it is. And I was only here for like 5 months at the time, so I had that stereotype again from like Hollywood movies, Last Samurai, geishas, Buddhism. Truth is, they're not very religious, and she gave me this wisdom that like just proved true the whole time I was here. Maybe it actually colored my thinking, I don't know, but she said, the essence of being Japanese is not thinking too much. And I was like, I thought it would be about like deep thinking. She's like, no, Japanese people don't like to think much. And it's like if someone is too opinionated or someone is like overthinking something, it's like disturbing the peace. I was like, wow, okay. She's like, yeah, like people who are more like philosophically minded, or people who are like ahead in their fields at different legs of research and stuff, like that's not something they can really talk about in casual conversation. Like they can talk about it at work with the people who are researching the same things as them, but it's not like just like sitting down and having like a conversation of critical thinking or whatever. It's just like not it's not the thing here. Something that needs more media attention in Japan. I think mental health needs more attention here. But people have been talking about it more lately, but more so than just mental health, because it's kind of becoming like a hashtag word, and when things get to that level, I think they start to lose their meaning. But just being able to live a full human experience without so much restriction, because you can obviously say like, okay, I'm a Westerner, and I'm thinking that because I'm Western and I'm trying to impose my way of thinking on them, and if that's not the way they are, that's fine. And I agree with that. Like, it's not my job to change Japan. But within like almost every day I've been here for 5.5 years, I see like people fishing for a way to express themselves. And if I didn't see that, I'd be like, fine, maybe they are happy just being repressed, or that repressed has a negative connotation. Being stoic, maybe they're happy being stoics, but people are always trying to like fish for a way to like confess all of their mental baggage to me, and I'm like, this keeps happening. Like, not a guidance counselor, you know, and clearly there's a problem. Like, it wouldn't hurt if people could just express themselves more. Maybe it's not like a dire social situation, maybe not, but I think that could use more attention in Japan. I know it's harder than just saying it, but try whatever country you're from, especially if you're a black person coming from a country where you're the minority there. I'm sure you've gone through a lot of crap, but try to come here without assuming that everyone has a bad perception of you. Because if you behave, if you're already thinking that people expect a certain behavior of you, whether you know it or not, you kind of start to behave like that. And then you ruin any chance of just like being what you are. Like, that's kind of how I've lived my life. Like, I kind of just go around sort of oblivious to a lot of things and do what I want to do, like regardless of people's perception of me. So when I was younger and I wanted to be an architect, and almost everyone I said it to were like, oh, that's a man's profession. Like, it just went, I want to do it. Like, I don't care if I'm the only woman there. I want to do it, so I'm going to. And I'm not going to try and like walk into the room and with the awareness of like, I have to prove something. Like, no, I'm just going to do what I want to do. And I think you should come here and give yourself a fresh slate. And yes, people will project their stereotypes onto you, but just come here with a strength of self. Like, you are who you are. Not everyone's gonna like you, and not everyone's gonna hate you either. So just walk around as you are. The process of learning Japanese. When I found out I was accepted to JET, I studied Japanese in Kingston for 6 months before coming here. Tomoko sensei, hi. Thank you for everything. So she got me a good start, because here you have a Japanese lady who understands the Jamaican mindset to be able to introduce you into Japanese. So when I came here, I couldn't speak or anything. It was only 6 months, but I got a very good start thanks to her, and I will always attribute the level I'm able to speak at now to her. Then coming to rural Japan, where no one speaks English, so you're forced to immediately use everything you learned, even if it's coming out in the wrong order grammatically, even if in the social context it doesn't make sense. Like, I need milk. Like, you're just trying to use every word you can to just be like, what is this? You know? And every time you get like a painful headache, just know that like your Japanese just leveled up. So like it is literally physically painful, because every language you speak shapes your mouth and the muscles that you use in your tongue and your mouth. So even speaking Japanese became physically painful for my face, but then after a while I got used to that too. It's just knowing that the discomfort is temporary and how good it's going to feel when that discomfort passes, and what you were stressfully, like physically probably using calories to do a year ago, now just like comes out without you even thinking about it. So like, just wait, like the pain will pass. Because I was an ALT in a high school, assistant language teacher ALT, on JET, the high school ALTs have more free time, I think, than other ALTs, or is it the other way around? But anyway, I use my free time wisely, because in Japan, like a teacher's staff room is like a tradition. It's considered like a traditional company, like every other type of like company in Japan. So you have to look busy, and so I had to look busy. So they don't know I'm studying Japanese, but I don't have that much work to do. Like I plan my lessons. You probably just recycle the same lessons. You plan one lesson for the week and you teach the same lesson every day that week. So I would be studying Japanese at my desk like almost 8 hours a day, because I had to look busy and I couldn't fall asleep. So a lot of my circumstances just forced me into learning it, and then I recognize them as opportunities and then I use them. So I got hand-me-down Japanese study books, studied them at my desk, and then I realized I don't know how to measure if I'm good enough or not. So I wanted to take the JLPT to see if Japanese language proficiency test to see if I could pass it, and then I passed the N3 on my first try, and I was like, okay, I can actually do this. So like, if you do things that encourage yourself, kind of, that helps you to like want to achieve the next thing, and then the next thing, and the next thing. So the next thing was then, doing the masters in Japanese, and I passed the N3 on my first try. I thought that was a big deal, and then I go into these classes, and I was like, and then here came the headaches again, like searing headaches, like trying to keep up in these classes. And then by the next semester and in the next semester, it became nothing again. And then starting at my job, again, the searing headaches. And then now 6 months later, I can do it, So learning another language, it's uncomfortable, it's annoying, it's stressful, but those are temporary, and it's more rewarding to understand what's being said around me and contribute at work, be seen as an equal at work. The most challenging parts, I would say again, is the having to form different sounds with your mouth can be very painful and tongue-tying. That's a struggle, and it's almost like any exercise. If you're doing a sport, you have to target a muscle that makes you better at that sport. You have to target here. You have to take the language for what it is and stop trying to compare it to your language or trying to directly translate it to something you would say in that language. Eavesdrop a lot. That's how you get cues. Oh, so when people say this thing, that's how they reply. Like, I've heard this on the train, I've heard this on the bus, I've heard this in the staff room. Every time someone says that, the other person says this. And even though I don't know what that thing it means, the next time I hear somebody say that, I say this, and they're like, wow, you're like a native speaker. And I'm like, I don't know what I just said. But yeah, just like children don't know everything they're saying either, but you just mimic and you pick up social cues from eavesdropping. You can watch shows, but remember those are scripted too for drama. Like, you can definitely do that, but just eavesdrop all the time. Like, take your headphones out and just listen in the train. Listen everywhere you are. But right, you said challenges, so exercising the face and stop trying to directly translate things and equate them to your culture, because there are things here that are completely opposite and foreign to your country and your culture. Just take it as it is. This is another challenge for me. Like, if I've been speaking English for a long time, I can't speak Japanese. If I've been speaking Japanese for a long time, I can't speak English. But I'm gonna try. Okay, so なんか日本語を勉強するときは直訳することよりなんか日本語として日本語を学ぼうとするとなんか上手になるかもしれないね。なんかこれは英語でなんて言うとっていう考えるより、それはそれでそのまま使った方がなんか自然に出ると思う。I think I just said nonsense, but yeah. What I said was the same thing I said before. Like, instead of trying to understand what's this in English or what's this in Japanese. Just use the thing as it is. Online, I have a very weak online presence, but I do use Instagram. I don't even know my Instagram name. I think it's Annabell. Yeah, and I'm on Facebook, which I barely use as well.
Thank you so much for watching. If you would like to share your story or have us visit your region, send us a message on any of our social media platforms or via our website.
That's good.